Jason stood in the grand hall of the Velden Empire, surrounded by beings twice his height. The crystalline architecture refracted light in ways that made his eyes ache. He kept his hands steady at his sides, ignoring the whispers echoing through the chamber. Princess Kira descended the central platform, her silver skin gleaming beneath the twin suns streaming through transparent walls. For arms crossed in what Jason had learned was a gesture of dismissal. Her violet eyes swept over him with barely concealed disappointment. This is what the human delegation sends. Her voice carried across the hall, musical yet cutting. A single unarmed male who looks like he would break in our training yards. Jason said nothing. He had been warned about this moment. Earth needed this alliance desperately. 3 colony worlds depended on Velden trade routes. His superiors had chosen him specifically because he was expendable, not because they believed he would succeed. Your Highness, the Velden Chancellor spoke, the humans claim he is their finest candidate. Kira laughed, a sound like chiming bells laced with contempt. Then their species is more pathetic than reports suggested. Very well. If he wishes to stand beside Velden nobility as a potential consort and ally, he must prove his worth. Jason finally met her eyes. He nodded once. The Velden Empire controlled 17 star systems and had never been conquered. Their people were warriors, scientists, and philosophers who valued strength in all its forms. Princess Kira was third in line to the throne, but her influence exceeded her rank. She had personally led fleets to victory and negotiated treaties that reshaped borders. Humans were newcomers to galactic politics. Weak by most species standards. Short-lived. Fragile. Jason had been briefed on all of this during the 6-month journey to Velden Prime. He had studied their language, customs, and history. What the briefings had not prepared him for was the sheer scale of everything. The palace alone could house 1 million beings. The training ground stretched beyond the horizon. Chancellor Vorin, an elderly Velden with faded silver skin, approached Jason after the ceremony. You are either very brave or very foolish, human. Maybe both, Jason replied quietly. The princess will set a trial for you. Most candidates face physical challenges. Combat trials. Endurance tests. Vorin's 4 eyes studied him carefully. You do not look like a warrior. I'm not. Then why did you come? Jason looked out at the alien city below, millions of lives depending on decisions made in rooms like this. Because someone had to. 3 Velden nobles stood with Princess Kira when Jason was summoned the next morning. Each was a decorated warrior, their skin bearing the ceremonial markings of battlefield honors. Jason recognized Commander Dax from the briefing files, the princess's personal guard and rumored suitor. Human Jason, Kira spoke formally, you seek to stand as a potential ally to the Velden crown. Our customs demand proof of capability. What are your skills? This was the moment Jason had dreaded. He could not match them in strength. Could not best them in combat. His training was in systems analysis, pattern recognition, and engineering. Not exactly impressive to a warrior culture. I am skilled at solving complex problems, Your Highness. I can analyze systems and find solutions others might miss. Commander Dax barked a laugh. He is a thinker. Princess, surely you will not waste time on this. Kira raised one hand for silence, but her expression showed agreement. Our empire does not need more thinkers. We have thousands. We need strength. Courage. The ability to face impossible odds. Then give me impossible odds, Jason said quietly. The room fell silent. Speaking so directly to royalty violated protocol, but Jason had calculated the risk. Kira valued boldness. Her eyes narrowed. Very well, human. I accept your challenge. Princess Kira led Jason to a sealed chamber deep within the palace. The other nobles followed, curiosity replacing their initial contempt. The room was circular, with walls covered in symbols that glowed faintly. "This is the sanctum of proving," Kira explained. "For 300 years, every royal consort or high advisor has faced a trial here. The trial adapts to the individual, testing their greatest weaknesses." She placed one hand on a crystalline panel. The room hummed to life, light cascading across surfaces. "Most candidates face physical trials. Yours will likely test your intellect, since that is what you claim to possess." Jason studied the room carefully, already analyzing patterns in the symbols. "How long do I have?" "The trial ends when you succeed or admit defeat. Most complete it within 1 day. The longest recorded time was 4 days, achieved by Commander Dax." Dax stepped forward. "I nearly died in this chamber, human. It will find your weakness and exploit it mercilessly. You can withdraw now with no shame." "I appreciate the concern," Jason said, "but I'll continue." Kira's expression remained unreadable. "Then we shall return in 1 day to see if you survive. The chamber will provide water but no food. Prove your worth, human, or admit that your species is as weak as we believe." The nobles filed out. Jason was alone. The moment the door sealed, the symbols on the walls rearranged themselves. A voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in Velden. "Trial initiated. Analyzing subject." Jason felt a strange sensation, like invisible fingers probing his mind. Then the walls shifted, symbols flowing like water, and a puzzle materialized before him. Mathematical sequences, but unlike any he had seen. They followed rules that seemed to shift as he watched. He approached slowly, studying the patterns. This was not just a test of intelligence. The chamber was measuring how he responded to stress, to the unknown, to problems with no obvious solution. Hours passed. Jason worked methodically, testing theories, discarding approaches that failed. The chamber adapted to each success, increasing complexity. When he solved mathematical puzzles, it introduced spatial reasoning challenges. When he mastered those, it combined multiple problem types simultaneously. No food. Limited water. The temperature fluctuated randomly, disrupting concentration. Jason recognized the tactics, physiological stress layered onto mental challenges. He sat down, closed his eyes, and breathed slowly. This was the real test. Not whether he could solve the puzzles, but whether he could maintain focus despite exhaustion, hunger, and an environment designed to break him. When he opened his eyes, Jason smiled slightly. He understood now. He stopped trying to solve everything and instead began looking for the pattern beneath the patterns. 20 hours had passed when Princess Kira returned with Commander Dax and Chancellor Vorin. They expected to find Jason either unconscious or begging for release. Instead, he sat cross-legged in the center of the chamber, surrounded by floating symbols he had somehow manipulated into three-dimensional formations. "Impossible," Dax whispered. "The chamber should not allow physical manipulation of the constructs." Jason did not look up. His fingers moved in precise gestures, rearranging glowing symbols like pieces on a chessboard. Sweat covered his face, and his hands trembled from exhaustion, but his movements never faltered. Kira stepped closer to the transparent barrier separating them. "What is he doing?" Vorin's eyes widened. "He is not solving the puzzles individually. He is finding the meta-pattern that governs all of them. By the ancestors, I have never seen this approach." "Will it work?" Kira demanded. "I do not know. No one has attempted it." Inside the chamber, Jason placed the final symbol in position. The entire array glowed brilliant white, then collapsed into a single point of light that absorbed back into the walls. The voice returned, "Trial incomplete. Subject has identified structural framework but has not completed individual challenges. Adjusting parameters." The room shuddered. New puzzles emerged, but now they came in waves, dozens simultaneously. Jason staggered to his feet, swaying from exhaustion. Kira watched his face carefully. He looked terrified but not defeated. He whispered something she could not hear and began working faster. 36 hours had elapsed when Jason finally collapsed. The chamber's voice announced, "Trial ongoing. Subject has completed 73% of challenges. Unprecedented methodology detected. Continuing assessment." Kira ordered the chamber opened over Dax's objections. Medical staff rushed in, scanning Jason's vital signs. He was conscious but barely responsive, his body pushed far beyond normal human limits. He should withdraw, Dax insisted. He has proven more capable than expected, but this is madness. The trial will kill him. His vital signs are stable, the medic reported. Exhausted, malnourished, but stable. I have never seen such mental endurance. Jason's eyes focused on Kira. He tried to speak, failed, then tried again. Not done. You have completed more than most candidates, Kira said, surprised by the gentleness in her own voice. You can withdraw with honor. Not done, he repeated. His hand moved weakly, gesturing back toward the chamber. I see the solution. Just need more time. You can barely stand. Jason smiled faintly. Not trying to stand. Trying to think. Kira studied him for a long moment. Something about his quiet determination reminded her of her late father, who had taught her that strength came in many forms. She made a decision that shocked everyone present. Give him food and 4 hours rest. Then he may continue if he chooses. Princess, this violates tradition, Boren protested. I am allowing it. That is the end of discussion. Jason woke to find himself in a recovery chamber, nutrients flowing into his arm through Velden medical technology. Princess Kira sat nearby, reviewing data on a holographic display. You stayed, he said, his voice rough. I wanted to understand what drives a human to such extremes. Your species is weak by our standards. Yet you push yourself harder than candidates twice your size and strength. She turned to face him. Why? Jason considered his answer carefully. Because being weak means we have to be smart. Being fragile means we cannot afford to give up. Every challenge is impossible odds for humans. This is just one more. You could have withdrawn with honor. Honor does not save the colony worlds that depend on this alliance. Results do. Kira's expression shifted, something like respect entering her eyes. You do not care about glory or proving yourself to me. You care about your mission. I care about people counting on me not to fail. She stood, deactivating the medical equipment. Your 4 hours have ended. Can you continue? Jason sat up, testing his body. Everything ached, but the nutrition and rest had restored basic function. Yes. The trial has never been paused and resumed. The chamber may react unpredictably. Your Highness, with respect, everything about this has been unpredictable. That is the point. For the first time, Kira smiled at him without contempt. Perhaps you are not as weak as I assumed, human Jason. When Jason re-entered the sanctum, the chamber responded differently. The voice announced, subject has returned. Unusual. Adapting trial parameters for extended endurance test. The puzzles that emerged were different now, less about raw problem solving and more about sustained decision-making under pressure. Moral dilemmas appeared in holographic scenarios. Resource allocation problems with no perfect answer. Leadership challenges where every choice carried consequences. Jason realized the chamber was now testing whether exhaustion would compromise his judgment. He worked through scenarios methodically, explaining his reasoning aloud to maintain focus. Outside, Kira watched with growing fascination. She had called her senior advisors to witness this. He is treating it like a negotiation, one advisor observed. showing the chamber his thought process rather than just providing answers. Is that effective? Kira asked. Unknown. The chamber's purpose is to find weaknesses. By being transparent, he leaves no room for doubt about his intentions. It is either brilliant or foolish. 52 hours total. Jason had gone longer without sleep during academy training, but never while simultaneously solving complex problems. His vision blurred periodically. Twice he caught himself providing answers in English instead of Velden and had to correct. But he did not stop. Could not stop. Because 3 colony worlds needed this alliance, and he was Earth's only chance. 60 hours into the trial, Jason made a critical error. A puzzle sequence that required spatial manipulation while solving linguistic riddles while balancing ethical considerations, he chose too quickly, prioritizing efficiency over morality. The chamber's response was immediate and brutal. The walls flashed red. A sound like screaming metal filled the space. Jason fell to his knees as psychic feedback punished the mistake, a feature of Velden trials designed to ensure candidates understood the weight of poor judgment. Outside, Kira stood abruptly. That was the trial's discipline response. He failed a critical decision. Most candidates withdraw after experiencing that, Vorin said quietly. The psychic pain is extraordinary. They watched Jason curl into himself, clearly in agony. The trial would give him 10 minutes to decide, continue or withdraw. Every advisor assumed he would choose withdrawal. No shame in it after 60 hours. Jason's voice, barely audible through the monitors, I am sorry. I chose wrong. I will do better. He forced himself upright, hands shaking. Blood ran from his nose, a side effect of the psychic discipline. He wiped it away and looked directly at the next puzzle forming on the walls. Kira felt something strange in her chest, an emotion she rarely experienced. She was inspired. He should not be able to stand, the medical officer said. His neural activity shows pain levels beyond typical tolerance. But Jason was not just standing. He was working again, slower now, more careful, but utterly unwilling to surrender. Kira made an unprecedented decision. She entered the chamber observation room alone, activating the communication system that allowed her to speak to candidates. It was traditionally used only to confirm withdrawal. Jason, can you hear me? He paused, looking up at the observation window he could not see through. Yes, Your Highness. You have far exceeded expectations. The trial has already shown your capabilities. You may withdraw without shame. Silence stretched. Then, is that what you want me to do? The question caught her off guard. It is not about what I want. It is about what is reasonable. With respect, Your Highness, nothing about this situation is reasonable. You gave me an impossible task. I intend to complete it. Why does this matter so much to you? Another pause. My sister lives on one of the colony worlds. She is a botanist, trying to grow food in soil that barely supports Earth plants. She has a daughter, my niece, who is 5 years old. If this alliance fails, the colony support networks collapse. I have never told anyone this because it should not matter. I am here to represent Earth, not my family. But you asked why I will not quit, and that is why. Kira closed her eyes. She had assumed he was motivated by glory or duty in the abstract. This was far more personal. More real. Then continue, Jason. Prove me wrong about your species. I will do my best. The trial's nature shifted again at the 70-hour mark. The puzzles receded, and instead, the chamber created a simulation. Jason found himself standing in a holographic war room, with Velden officers looking to him for decisions. Enemy fleet approaching, one simulation character reported. We are outnumbered 3-1. Orders, Commander. Jason understood. This was a test of leadership under impossible circumstances. He studied the tactical display, analyzing ship positions, resource distributions, and terrain advantages. His training had included military strategy, though he had never expected to use it. "Divide our fleet into 3 groups," he said carefully, working through the problem aloud. "First group engages directly but retreats along this vector, drawing them toward the asteroid field. Second group flanks from this position. Third group holds in reserve here." The simulation executed his orders. The battle played out in accelerated time. His strategy worked partially, casualties were minimized, but the enemy was not defeated, merely delayed. "Insufficient," the chamber announced. "Recalibrate strategy." Jason ran 7 more scenarios, each time learning from failures, adapting, improving. By the 11th attempt, he had developed a strategy that achieved victory with minimal losses. Outside, Commander Dax watched with reluctant admiration. His tactical thinking is crude but adaptive. He learns quickly. "He has no military experience according to his file," Kira said. "Then he is a natural strategist. Concerning for a species we assumed was no threat." Kira smiled slightly. "Perhaps we should reconsider many assumptions." 85 hours. Jason had long since lost track of time. His entire world had narrowed to the next challenge, the next decision, the next puzzle. Sleep deprivation created hallucinations at the edge of his vision, but he had learned to ignore them. The chamber presented a new scenario, a diplomatic crisis. 2 allied species on the brink of war, each with legitimate grievances, each demanding Veldan support against the other. Jason sat down, forcing his exhausted mind to process the complex political situation. This was closer to his actual expertise. He analyzed trade relationships, historical context, cultural values, and power dynamics. "The conflict is not about the stated grievances," he said finally. "It is about resource access. Both species need the mining rights to the disputed system. The stated cultural insults are pretexts." The chamber waited. Jason continued, "Recommendation: Veldan Empire brokers a resource-sharing agreement with guaranteed quotas for both species. Establish a joint colony in the disputed system with shared governance. Neither side gets everything, but both get enough to justify peace to their populations. Explain implementation challenges," the chamber demanded. Jason spent the next hour detailing potential obstacles and solutions, drawing on political theory and game theory and basic psychology. When he finished, the chamber went silent for 3 full minutes. Then, solution accepted. Probability of success, 71%. Higher than standard Veldan diplomatic approaches for similar scenarios. Analysis: subject demonstrates strong systemic thinking and cultural sensitivity. Outside, Chancellor Vorin sat down heavily. "He just outperformed our diplomatic corps." "Impossible," another advisor said. "Review the logic. It is sound. Better than sound. He found an elegant solution we missed because we were thinking in terms of power projection, not mutual benefit." Kira said nothing, but her mind was racing. The trial reached its final phase at 96 hours. Jason could barely see, his body operating on pure determination. The chamber's voice returned, "Final assessment. Subject has demonstrated strategic thinking, moral reasoning, and exceptional endurance. One challenge remains." The holographic displays vanished. The room became simple stone walls. A single question appeared in glowing text: "Why should the Veldan Empire trust humanity?" Jason stood in the center of the empty chamber, swaying. This was not a puzzle to solve. It was a question that cut to the heart of everything. He spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. "You should not trust humanity because we are strong. We are not. You should not trust us because we are advanced. We are not. You should trust us because we understand what it means to be vulnerable. We know what it is to face extinction and fight for survival. We will never betray an ally because we know we cannot survive alone. Our weakness is our guarantee. We need you to be trustworthy, so we will be trustworthy in return. Silence. The powerful species in this galaxy can afford betrayal. They have the strength to weather the consequences. Humans cannot. Our word is all we have, so our word is absolute. That is why you can trust us. The chamber's walls began to glow. Trial complete. Subject has passed all assessment criteria. Performance rating, exceptional in strategic analysis and moral reasoning. Adequate in physical endurance. Overall assessment, approved for alliance consideration. Jason heard the words from very far away. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed as the chamber doors opened. Jason woke in medical quarters with no memory of being carried there. Princess Kira sat beside his bed, which surprised him. Royalty did not typically visit recovering trial candidates. "How long?" he asked. "You have been unconscious for 18 hours. The medics say you will recover fully." She paused. "You completed the trial in 96 hours. The previous record was 4 days. You nearly doubled that time. I failed many challenges. You failed, adapted, and succeeded. That is the point." Kira stood, moving to the window that overlooked the palace gardens. "I owe you an apology, Jason of Earth. Your Highness. I assumed your species was weak and unworthy of alliance. I designed this trial to humiliate you, to justify rejecting the human proposal. I wanted you to fail." Jason processed this. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve honesty. You gave everything to prove yourself. The least I can offer is truth." She turned to face him. "You changed my mind. Not through strength or power, but through sheer unwillingness to surrender. You showed me that endurance and intelligence can matter as much as physical might. So the alliance? I will recommend approval to the Imperial Council. I cannot guarantee success, but I will advocate for humanity. You have earned that." Jason closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. "Thank you, Your Highness. Call me Kira. You have earned that privilege as well." Over the following days, as Jason recovered, Kira visited regularly. What began as debriefing sessions evolved into genuine conversations. She asked about Earth, about human culture and history. He asked about Veldan philosophy and the challenges of managing an empire. "Your people value strength," Jason observed during one conversation. "But you define it narrowly. Only physical or military power. That is what wins wars. That is what fights wars. Winning them requires strategy, diplomacy, logistics, and understanding your enemy. Strength alone just makes the battles bloodier." Kira considered this. "You sound like my father. He used to say the sharpest blade is worthless without a skilled hand to wield it. He sounds wise. He was. He died defending our borders when I was young. I have spent my life trying to honor his legacy by being strong enough to protect our people." She looked at Jason. "But perhaps I have been measuring strength incorrectly." Jason smiled. "Strength is not wrong. But it is incomplete. Your people are formidable warriors. Imagine if you combined that with the adaptability and desperation of species like mine. Alliance does not make you weak. It makes both sides stronger. The Imperial Council will not see it that way. Many believe allying with humans diminishes Veldan prestige. Then we will have to change their minds. If you will permit me to address the council, I would like to try." Kira laughed. "You just survived a trial that nearly killed you, and now you want to face the most powerful beings in the Empire in political debate? Yes. You are either very brave or very foolish, Jason. Someone told me that before. I think the answer is still both. The Imperial Council convened in a chamber even more magnificent than the throne room. 17 counselors representing different Velden worlds and factions sat in a semicircle. Princess Kira stood as an advocate, with Jason beside her. Chancellor Vorin opened the proceedings. Princess Kira has requested this council consider formal alliance with humanity. This is unprecedented. Humans are a young, weak species with minimal resources to offer. What possible benefit justifies this alliance? Kira spoke first, presenting the results of Jason's trial and her observations. Several counselors looked impressed, but others remained skeptical. Counselor Thane, leader of the military faction, addressed Jason directly. You performed adequately in controlled trials. But what can your species actually offer the Velden Empire? We do not need strategists. We have thousands. We do not need diplomats. We are the dominant power in this region. What do we gain? Jason stepped forward. You gain perspective, Counselor. The Velden Empire has been the dominant power for so long that you have forgotten what it is to struggle. That makes you predictable. Dangerous ground. Several counselors stiffened at the implied criticism. Jason continued, your strategies are excellent but follow established patterns. Your diplomacy is effective but relies on implied force. You have optimized everything for a position of strength. But what happens when you face an enemy that does not care about your strength? That uses asymmetric tactics. That survives through adaptation rather than confrontation. Thane leaned forward. You describe guerrilla warfare. We have faced such enemies before. And how many of those conflicts lasted years longer than necessary because your doctrine had no framework for dealing with opponents who would not engage in traditional battle? Silence. Jason pressed his argument. Humanity offers you something no other allied species can. We are experts at surviving impossible odds. For thousands of years, we competed against creatures stronger, faster, and more naturally armed than ourselves. We won through tools, cooperation, and adaptation. That is our value. Not because we are strong, but because we are resilient in ways you cannot be. Counselor Mira, leader of the science faction, spoke up. Intriguing argument. But resilience is not enough for alliance. We need specific benefits. Then consider this, Jason said. The Velden Empire controls 17 systems. How many more could you safely administer? Expansion is limited by administrative capacity and defense requirements, Vorin answered. Exactly. You are at maximum efficient size. But what if you had allies who specialized in colony development, in making harsh worlds habitable, in managing supply chains with minimal resources? Humans have established colonies on worlds you would consider uninhabitable. We can help you develop marginal systems that are currently not worth your investment, expanding your economic base without stretching your military. He pulled up holographic displays showing human colony data. We terraform through biology and patience rather than brute force technology. It is slower but far cheaper. You provide security and infrastructure. We provide development expertise and labor. Both sides benefit. The counselors began murmuring among themselves. Jason had reframed the discussion from charity to mutual advantage. Counselor Thane was not convinced. Pretty words. But I see a species trying to attach itself to power for protection. What happens when we face a true threat? Will humans stand with us or hide behind our strength? Kira started to respond, but Jason raised a hand gently, asking permission to continue. She nodded. Counselor Thane, you are right to question our courage. Words are easy. So let me propose something concrete. Jason's voice was steady despite knowing how insane his next words would sound. Make the alliance conditional. For the first 10 years, it is probationary. During that time, human forces will serve integrated with Velden military units on the front lines of any conflict. Not behind the lines. Not in support roles. Front lines. The room erupted in surprise. Even Kira looked shocked. Jason continued over the noise. If humans prove to be cowards, you can dissolve the alliance with no penalty. But if we prove ourselves, the alliance becomes permanent and equal. You risk nothing except the possibility of being wrong about us. Thane stood. You would commit your species to wars that are not your own. That is madness. That is alliance, counselor. Your wars become our wars. Our struggles become yours. That is what partnership means. The mortality rate on frontline units is significant. Then humans will die proving we are worthy allies. But we will die standing beside Velden warriors, not hiding behind them. The chamber fell silent. Counselor Mira finally spoke. This human shame us with his courage. He offers his people's blood to prove sincerity. How do we respond to such an offer? Thane sat down slowly, studying Jason with new respect. I withdraw my objection to the alliance. If humans are willing to bleed for the Empire, they have earned the right to stand with us. One by one, other counselors voiced agreement. Jason had shifted the entire dynamic with one bold, dangerous offer. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The alliance was approved on Jason's proposed terms, probationary for 10 years, with human forces serving integrated roles in Velden military operations. After the council adjourned, Kira pulled Jason aside into a private chamber. Her expression was a mixture of admiration and anger. That was not the plan we discussed, she said sharply. You committed your people to a war clause without authorization from Earth. I know. You could be court-martialed for exceeding your authority. I know. Then why? Jason met her eyes. Because it was the only way to win their respect. And because it is the right thing to do. If we want to be treated as equals, we have to accept equal risks. I will face whatever consequences Earth decides, but I would make the same choice again. Kira studied him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. My father would have liked you. He believed that true courage was not the absence of fear but the willingness to act despite it. I am terrified, Jason admitted. I just committed human soldiers to conflicts we barely understand. People will die because of my decision. People would die anyway. War comes whether we wish it or not. But now, when it comes, humans and Veldens will face it together. She placed one hand on his shoulder, a gesture of deep respect in Velden culture. You did the impossible, Jason. Not by solving puzzles, but by showing us who humans truly are. Who are we? Survivors. Partners. Equals. She paused. Friends. Jason felt the weight of everything crash over him suddenly. He had succeeded. Against all odds, he had secured the alliance. Earth's colonies would survive. Then he started laughing, exhausted and relieved and overwhelmed. Kira joined him, and for a moment, the alien princess and the human diplomat were simply two people sharing a moment of hard-won victory. The news reached Earth 3 weeks later via quantum relay. Jason had expected anger from his superiors for exceeding his mandate. Instead, he received a terse message, terms accepted. You are hereby promoted to ambassador. Try not to start any more wars while negotiating peace. He suspected someone was being sarcastic, but through text-only communication, it was hard to tell. Kira had invited him to remain on Velden Prime during the alliance ratification process. They worked together preparing the integration protocols, determining how human and Velden forces would train together, and establishing communication standards. During one late-night planning session, Kira set down her data tablet and looked at him seriously. I need to tell you something, Jason. The trial was not entirely what I claimed. He looked up. What do you mean? The sanctum of proving has a secondary function I did not mention. It does not just test capability. It tests character compatibility with Velden royalty. It is used primarily to evaluate potential consorts. Jason felt his face flush. Oh. You passed that evaluation as well. With extremely high compatibility ratings. She paused. The council noticed. There have been suggestions that solidifying the alliance through a formal bonding would be appropriate. A political marriage. Yes. I want you to know I argued against it. You should not be pressured into such a thing. The alliance stands on its own merits now. Jason was quiet for a moment. What do you want, Kira? Not as a princess. As a person. I want, she said carefully, to get to know you better. Without trials or politics or pressure. Just as two people who respect each other and might become true friends. Or perhaps something more, in time. But only if that is what we both choose freely. Jason smiled. I would like that very much. The following months were strange and wonderful. Jason split his time between diplomatic duties and simply spending time with Kira. She showed him Velden culture beyond the palace, the markets, the wilderness reserves, the artistic centers. He taught her about human music, literature, and the particular kind of humor that came from being a species that survived by laughing at impossible situations. They were not lovers, not yet, but they were becoming something deeper, partners who understood each other across the vast gulf of species and culture. The first joint military exercises began. Human soldiers trained alongside Velden warriors. There were challenges, biological differences, communication gaps, cultural misunderstandings. But slowly, carefully, bonds formed. Jason received regular reports. He was gratified to see that human adaptability and unconventional tactics impressed even skeptical Velden commanders. In turn, human forces learned discipline and tactical precision from their Velden counterparts. His sister sent a message from the colony. I don't know exactly what you did up there, but supply shipments have tripled and we just got Velden agricultural technology. My daughter drew you a picture. She says you are her hero. So does everyone else here. Thank you does not seem like enough. Jason kept the picture in his quarters, a child's drawing of a human and a Velden holding hands under two suns. It reminded him why all of this mattered. The true test came in the 8th month of the alliance. A hostile species called the Kryn launched a surprise attack on a border system jointly claimed by the Velden Empire and 2 other allied species. The response force included both Velden and human units, the first combat deployment under the new alliance. Jason was not a soldier, but he monitored the situation from the command center alongside Kira and the military staff. For 3 days, the battle raged. Casualty reports came in steadily. 17 humans killed in the first major engagement. 23 in the second. Jason felt each loss personally. These deaths were his responsibility. His decision. But the reports also told another story. Human forces had held a critical position against overwhelming odds, buying time for Velden reinforcements. A human engineering team had repaired a damaged capital ship's shields under fire, saving 800 Velden crew members. Human tactical flexibility had turned 2 engagements that should have been losses into victories. When the Kryn finally retreated, the battle was won. But the cost had been high, 41 humans dead, over 100 wounded. Velden losses were also significant. Kira found Jason in the chapel memorial, standing before the holographic names of the fallen. She said nothing, just stood beside him in shared grief. They died because of my choice, Jason said quietly. They died protecting others. They died as warriors. There is honor in that. Does honor comfort their families? No. But neither does pointless death. These losses had meaning. They saved thousands of lives and proved that humans and Veldens can stand together against any threat. She took his hand. This is the burden of leadership, Jason. We make choices that cost lives in order to save lives. It never gets easier, but it is necessary. Jason nodded slowly. I know. But knowing does not make it hurt less. No. It does not. And the day it stops hurting is the day you should stop leading. The joint memorial service was held on Velden Prime, with both human and Velden traditions honored. Families of the fallen attended in person or via holographic link. Jason spoke briefly, honoring the sacrifice and promising it would not be forgotten. Afterward, a Velden commander named Torin approached him. Torin had lost soldiers under his command during the battle. Ambassador Jason, I wanted to thank you. Thank me? I am responsible for putting your soldiers at risk. No. You gave them the honor of fighting beside humans who proved to be worthy of the Velden Empire. Before this deployment, I was skeptical of your species. Now I would trust human warriors beside me in any battle. That is a gift. Another commander joined them, then another. Soon Jason was surrounded by Velden officers, each expressing respect for human forces and gratitude for the alliance. Counselor Thane himself attended the memorial. He found Jason as the ceremony ended. Human Jason, I owe you an apology. I doubted your species' courage. The performance of your forces in combat has proven me wrong. You have fulfilled your promise ahead of schedule. I will be recommending to the Council that the alliance be made permanent and equal immediately, rather than waiting 10 years. Jason shook his hand in the human fashion, which Thane returned awkwardly. Thank you, Counselor. That means more than you know. Your people have earned it. With blood and courage, the only currency the Empire truly respects. As Thane walked away, Kira appeared at Jason's side. You did it. Everything you came here to achieve. We did it. I could not have succeeded without you. Then we make a good team. Yes, Jason agreed. We do. 6 months later, the alliance was formally recognized as permanent and equal. Human colonies flourished with Velden support. Trade routes expanded. Cultural exchange programs began. The joint military forces had proven themselves in 3 more engagements, developing a reputation across the sector as a formidable partnership. Jason's role evolved from ambassador to liaison, coordinating the growing relationship between Earth and the Velden Empire. He remained based on Velden Prime, working closely with Princess Kira, who had become not just a colleague but his closest friend. On the anniversary of the alliance, they stood together on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. 2 suns set in alien colors, painting the sky in shades Earth never saw. Do you miss home? Kira asked. Sometimes. But I have built a new home here. With you. With all of this. He gestured at the city below, where humans and Veldens now walked the same streets, working toward shared futures. I am glad you stayed. She hesitated, then continued carefully. Jason, you know that the suggestion of a formal bonding was never just political for me. Over these months, you have become important to me. As a partner. As a friend. As something more. Jason turned to face her fully. I feel the same way, Kira. I did not come here expecting any of this. But if the trial taught me anything, it is that sometimes the impossible is simply what we have not yet achieved. She smiled, that same expression that had once held contempt now filled with warmth and affection. Then perhaps we should attempt another impossible thing together. What did you have in mind? A future. Together. However it develops. Whatever form it takes. No trials. No tests. Just 2 people choosing to face what comes side by side. Jason took her hand, human fingers interweaving with Velden ones. I can think of nothing I want more. They stood together as the sun set, a human and an alien princess, representatives of 2 species building something unprecedented, not just an alliance of governments, but a genuine partnership of peoples. Jason had come to Velden Prime expecting to fail, to be humiliated, to be a sacrifice for political necessity. Instead, he had found purpose, respect, and love. He had proven his worth by quietly doing the impossible, and in return, the universe had given him everything he never knew he needed. The alliance would endure. The friendship would deepen. And the future, once so uncertain, now stretched before them bright with possibility.